Episode 9, Journey to Midnight's Edge.
I have come to understand one peculiar thing about the quaint little town of Greyfell where I moved to from the bustling city life. It loves its ghost stories. Having grown up in the city, I had always been used to the concretes and the skyscrapers. The rural, isolated landscape of Greyfell was daunting to me, even more so when I had to traverse the treacherous pathway to my workplace, which was a further 2-hour drive from the town. My faithful companion through these rides was my trusty old hound, Rufus. It was on one such trip when things took an ominous turn. Just as the day was waning into dusk, Rufus and I set off for the long ride home. He would usually amuse himself, looking out the window, or, at times, resting his head on my lap. But today, his behavior was odd, almost uncharacteristically frantic. He stared out the window with a steely gaze, baring his teeth and growling intermittently. I attributed this to a wild animal he might have seen or even an undigested meal. As we moved further into the route, I was hit with a wave of inexplicable anxiety. It was the same pathway I had taken every day for months, but today, it seemed alien. The narrowing road, the dauntingly tall trees on either side, the dimming sunlight, all these were a haunting reality that I was unprepared for. Suddenly, Rufus whimpered, snapping me back to reality. Following his gaze, I saw her. A spectral white figure, appearing and disappearing in fleeting moments. A young woman, pale and gaunt, with a striking white dress that fluttered like an ethereal wisp. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine, but I resolved to stay focused and continue the drive. However, every passing minute only intensified my fear. The spectral figure reappeared time and again, closer each time. I could feel a chilling dread fill the car. Rufus, too, seemed restless, whining and barking intermittently. I knew something was amiss. I knew I was being haunted. Refusing to be deterred, I pressed down on the accelerator, hoping to outpace the spectre. However, the faster I drove, the closer she seemed. I felt her cold gaze pierce through me, chilling me to the bone. I didn't dare to look, fearing the sight of her haunting presence. And then, in an instant, everything was silent. The spectral woman was gone, and Rufus had stopped growling. I breathed a sigh of relief, praying that the ordeal was over. But I couldn't have been more wrong. In the rearview mirror, I caught sight of the spectral woman, a mere inch away from the car. She bored into my soul with her cold, empty gaze. Then, with a swift movement, she lunged at us. I swerved the car in a desperate attempt to avoid her, but in my panic, I lost control and crashed into a tree. When I opened my eyes, I found myself surrounded by shattered glass and the mangled remnants of my car. My body ached from the impact, but I was alive. The spectral woman was nowhere to be seen. But that sense of dread, it lingered. Rufus, miraculously unharmed, nuzzled against me, whimpering softly. It was then I realized the stories of Greyfell were not just mere stories. They were warnings I should have heeded. The journey home was always supposed to be safe and sound, but I was thrown into a realm of horror I was unprepared for. The reality of my quaint little town had unraveled in front of my eyes, making me wonder if I was ever really safe.